Packers are 2-0. Lions scored 52 points yesterday, which makes me feel better about what their defense did to the Lions in week 1. I can't imagine this Monday feeling any better for a Packer fan right now.
Yeah, the only thing that probably hurts is Jaden Reed's broken collarbone, right? I was just looking at it. Like, if you would have said through 2 games that Dontavion Wicks has the most catches among the receivers, I don't know that I would have put money on that. Obviously, Tucker Kraft is leading the way overall, but just among the receivers, I think Dontavion Wicks is best with 6 catches, and I think Romeo Doubs is tops in yardage with 96 yards receiving. So to me, that like Jordan Love still, hasn't really, he doesn't have a guy yet that is going to go out and sort of dominate. Maybe Tucker Kraft's that guy, and that's fine. But I do think the Jaden Reed thing is could potentially be a problem.
You think with the Reed injury they're going to get Golden more involved?
I mean, you'd think they'd have to, right, Chewy? And it's not saying that that they can't exist together, but they are sort of similar. Reed is more or less exclusively a slot guy. Golden plays inside, plays a little outside too. But I mean, I do think this though, like if Love had hit either of those 2 throws to Golden, the long one, obviously overthrew it, right? But the one before that, would have been, I think, a 33-yard touchdown. Love badly underthrew that one. Golden had no chance at it. Those were his only 2 targets. But yeah, I do think that we will see more Matthew Golden this week.
Talking with Rob Demovsky, as we do each and every Monday here on Jen, Gabe, and Chewy. Is he underrated or underappreciated Packer than Keisean Nixon?
Yeah, that's a good question. The one thing about Keisean, I would say, since he's been here, is that when he has talked, he has usually backed it up. And he likes to talk. There's no question about it.
Oh, he's a quarterback.
Right.
That's what they do.
But he's even as a returner, right? He would say, "Oh, they won't kick to me." I suppose that's just in his DNA. But he always complains about teams don't kick to him, and then when they do kick to him, he burns them. So he backs it up. And obviously, looking back on that day in January, right after they lost to the Eagles in the playoff game, and he stood in the locker room and said, I want to be CB1. And Malik Heath, I talked to him after the game, and I asked him what he thought about the defense. I like talking to offensive players about the other side of the ball and vice versa. I think you get some interesting perspective. And Malik Heath, said it. He said 2 things that struck me about the defense. He said their whole mentality changed when Micah got here, and that Keisean Nixon was begging for CB1, and he's now CB1, and that's what a CB1 looks like. I thought the interesting thing was that, that day in January when Keisean said that, Jair Alexander was still on the team. That's the great. How, I don't want to say cocky, but how does a guy, sort of say that? And look, I think we all knew Jair's time was coming to an end, but he still said it with Jair's locker like 2 lockers down from him.
Rob, how's Christian Watson's rehab coming along? Is it too early for a timeline?
It's first of all, I don't know that I've ever seen an ACL guy look as good as he has so quickly. The one thing I don't know that accelerates the timeline though. I don't think they want to, take that chance. Brian Gutekunst said about midway through training camp when, he said he's going to start on PUP and it's going to be really hard to hold him back after 4 weeks, which is obviously you have to be on PUP for the first 4 weeks. I still think they're going to hold him back. I would have a hard time believing them clearing a guy much before. So let's say he comes back 4 weeks. That's obviously after the Dallas game. They won't practice during the bye week. He's going to need at minimum 2 weeks of practice, but I would guess it'd probably be more like 3 or 4. So that puts it at week 8 at the possible earliest. I don't know what's the week 8 game. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but that would be, to me, that would sort of be the timeline that makes the most sense. The fastest ACL guy I think I've ever seen come back was Brian Bulaga, and that was at 10 months. And I just think they have to be careful with Watson.
Week 8, by the way, is at the Steelers.
Does him signing the extension kind of take the pressure off of him, where he doesn't feel in a contract year he's got to get back out there to get his numbers? So it might have slowed him down as well.
It could have. I always think this was the end game for this year, though. And I always thought that he would do a 1-year deal at some point. That way, when he got hurt, I think I remember talking to you guys about this. I said the only positive about him getting hurt was that it sort of bought the organization another year to decide whether they want to make a long-term investment in him, because you always thought that the 1-year deal would be the way they would go after this season. I just didn't think – two things surprised me, Chewy. One, that it came, in early September, and two, that it was $13 million. I thought maybe it would come shortly after he came back, and it would be for, I don't know, $8 million or so, somewhere in that range. So the timing and the money surprised me just a little bit.
Rob, when it comes to the offensive line, are they hoping that they're going to be healthy going into week 3 against Cleveland? Because, again, you get injured. It's the quick turnaround on Thursday, so it's always tough for that to happen, despite them both being listed as questionable with Zach Tom and Aaron Banks. Are they hoping that those guys are going to be back this week?
It'll be really interesting to see. They have sort of a bonus practice today at I think it's around 11:15. We'll get to see practice to see if either of those guys are out there. And if they're not out there, doesn't mean they're for sure not playing this week. They might just want to give them 2 more days and see if they can get out there Wednesday. But it would obviously be a really encouraging sign if either one of those guys was out there this week. I mean, the Zach Tom thing, if he's got a torn oblique, is that what they're saying? Which is basically a sports hernia type of injury. Oftentimes those things are serious. So his must not be very serious. Otherwise they would have put him on injured reserve right away. But it is, to me, that is a concerning injury.
Did you watch the Philly game yesterday, Rob?
I watched bits and pieces of that game, Detroit game, and the Dallas game.
Would you put Philly in line with the Packers or a click better? That's a tough place to play. So that's a big win.
It's a big win. They have 2, what I would say are closer wins, right? I mean, they're, the week 1 win over Dallas was, it wasn't, certainly they didn't have it in hand until the end. And then this one was obviously competitive the whole way. I think you would say that if you're Philly and you had to have those 2 type of games, the Thursday opener, which is obviously a highly charged game, a big pressure game, and then a Super Bowl rematch in week 2, and you came through those 2-0. I would think if you're Philly, you're feeling really good about yourself. I don't know if their play style scares me that much. Like, I don't know that they dominated either of those teams, and those are hard circumstances to win 2 games in, so you have to be impressed with that. But I'm not sure at this point that they're head and shoulders above the Packers.
Mm-hmm. This is the last year of the tush push, right? I don't know if you heard Dean Blandino talking about it. He seemed exasperated about how hard the play is to officiate, and it seems like there could be some voters' remorse from the teams that decided not to ban it and instead just make fun of the Packers.
Right, and Gabe, there was one play I saw where initially they ruled it short, right? Yep. And then somebody called a timeout, if I remember right, or there was a stoppage in play, and then they overturned it or just adjusted it. It wasn't even a challenge, and all of a sudden it was a first down. I wasn't sure exactly how that, the mechanics of that happened. But yeah, it was close, right? Wasn't it? Didn't they have 16? No, what did they have for votes?
I think they fell too short. I think they were too short. I think they had 22 votes. They needed 24.
Yeah. And, that sounds right. And, I would think this will be revisited at some point before next season.
Yeah, it's just there's a false start. The center's covering the ball. They don't officiate it right. It seems like they have no interest in officiating it right, and you just need to have the right people supporting it.
Well, no, and like we meet with the officials every summer when they come here, and they get a lot of rules questions, and they always remind us, hey, guys, we didn't write the rules.
We just have to enforce them.
Right. It's our job to try to enforce it. And some of them are really hard to enforce. I mean, they typically don't, they won't say they don't like this play, but when they say that, those are plays that you can tell they don't like.
Rob, is Josh Jacobs frustrated at all?
He hasn't been yet, but I think that's a really interesting point, Chewy, because his numbers obviously aren't what they were. He did say after the game that he was mad at himself for a couple of runs that he thought should have been bigger. So I would say he's handled it, really well so far. Easy to do when you're winning games, right? If they have a loss and his numbers aren't very good, let's see what happens. But I would say it's a really good question. It's something worth keeping an eye on. But I do think so far he's been fine.
Rob, how electric has Lambeau been through 2 games?
Yeah, pretty highly
different.
Charged. It does. The weird thing is, and the thing that kind of stinks, Gabe, is they're not back there till October 12th. That's basically a month, right? And then that's the only home game they have until November 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the place has been awesome, and we'll only see it once between now and November 2nd. That's the thing that kind of stinks. But yeah, it's been awesome. Really has been, especially Thursday night.
Well, so one of the things that, and I feel like it has happened since Chewy's day, right, is there's been a bit of a civil war between the green and gold package. Oh, Milwaukee fans sell their tickets, all these things. Even LaFleur's making comments about it. Then there's even infighting once you get to the game. Why are you standing? We need to be sitting. We're doing the wave. We're on offense. All these sorts of things. But it feels like this team could be good enough that maybe Lambeau Field becomes the home field advantage that it was in Chewy's day. And the way the crowd's been into the first 2 games, am I crazy to think that they could maybe recapture that magic that they had 30 years ago?
No, when I got here in early 1997 season, you guys were in the midst of that ridiculously long consecutive home winning streak. I don't remember. Was it somewhere in the high 20s?
So with the playoffs, it was 29.
Yeah, with the playoffs, it was 29 games.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and to me, look, I was 26 years old at the time, and really I think I'd been in one NFL game in my life, and it was the game where Walter Payton broke the rushing record in Chicago, and I was in the bathroom when the play happened as a little kid. So my exposure to, if my timing's not great, my exposure to NFL in-person experience was pretty minimal before I came to Green Bay. But that was unreal. And I mean, I remember the playoff game against, I think it was Tampa at home.
Yeah.
One year, I think maybe that was the 97 or 98 year. I mean, just an unreal energy. I can't remember if that was the game where Brett, or it was a regular season game where Brett just got leveled and popped right back up, and the place went absolutely insane.
Oh, and then he went face mask to face. Yeah, him and Sapp went face mask to
face
mask.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, so to me, now the stadium's so different now. I mean, it's I think noise maybe even is trapped in a little bit better now with the higher end zones and on the suites and all that. But I do think that this could be, that was special back then. And it was special because of the team, not necessarily special because of the venue. But it takes a special team to create an atmosphere like that. And you sort of wonder where this could go.
When did they lose it? Atlanta? When Vic came in and beat them?
So that was the first playoff home loss.
Yeah, Minnesota even.
Minnesota's what ended your guys' streak.
Yes.
With Randy Moss.
Yeah, I'm just saying the playoff.
Yeah,
Vic, kind of went away.
Because then for a little bit they lost more games than they won at home. It felt like because they lost to they lost to Vic, lost to
the 07 NFC Championship game was a tough one to take, I think, and the playoff, the really cold playoff game against San Francisco, I think 13. I just think it's sort of, I don't know if it's just sort of slowly evaporated a little bit. It wasn't like it was somebody pulled the plug and instantly, but I do think it would take, wouldn't take a whole lot, a couple of home playoff wins and get yourself into a Super Bowl. I think it would certainly turn around.
Rob, we appreciate the time. Next week, I can't make any promises, but I want to apologize on behalf of Josh for not having a new open for you. So just want to apologize on his behalf.
Throw you under the bus.
I feel like a jerk. I really do. Like that was terrible on my part. I feel like a jerk. But next Monday when I'll probably be on the phone because I'll be in the Cleveland airport. I'll be very hopeful and curious to see what the intro is.
Just got to bring it more,
Shots fired
everywhere. All right, tension's high here on Jen, Gabe, and Chewy.
That should be in the intro.
Thanks, Rob. We'll talk to you next week, man.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
Hey, guys. It's Jen from Jen, Gabe, and Chewy. Thanks for watching our clip. I'm sure it was super informative and educational. I'm just kidding. I love those knuckleheads. And we do it live every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. on 94.5 ESPN Milwaukee. Make sure that you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you get informed anytime we drop new content.